Hello, I'm Willie from the Ozarks, and we are ready for our July 15th lesson in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students from the original edition, Lesson 196, It Can Be But Myself I Crucify. It can be but myself I crucify. When this is firmly understood and kept in full awareness, you will not attempt to harm yourself nor make your body slave to vengeance. You will not attack yourself, and you will realize that to attack another is but to attack yourself. You will be free of the insane belief that to attack a brother saves yourself, and you will understand his safety as your own, and in his healing, you are healed. Perhaps at first you will not understand how mercy, limitless and with all things held in its pure protection, can be found in the idea we practice for today. It may in fact appear to be a sign that punishment can never be escaped, because the ego, under what it sees as threat, is quick to cite the truth to save its lies. Yet must it fail to understand the truth it uses thus. But you can learn to see these foolish applications and deny the meaning they appear to have. Thus do you also teach your mind that you are not an ego, for the ways in which the ego would distort the truth will not deceive you longer. You will not believe you are a body to be crucified, and you will see within today's idea the light of resurrection, looking past all thoughts of crucifixion and of death to thoughts of liberation and of life. Today's idea is one step we take in leading us from bondage to the state of perfect freedom. Wow, that's where we want to be. From the state of bondage to that of perfect freedom. Let us take this step today that we may quickly go the way salvation shows us, taking every step in its appointed sequence as the mind relinquishes its burdens one by one. Okay, let's read that again. Today's idea is one step we take in leading us from bondage to the state of perfect freedom. And what's the idea? It can be but myself I crucify. Let us take this step that leads us from bondage to the state of perfect freedom. Let us take this step today that we may quickly go the way salvation shows us, taking every step in its appointed sequence as the mind relinquishes its burdens one by one. So as we relinquish our burdens one by one, we're going to let the mind go, what it said, take every step in its appointed sequence. So it's kind of like as we let go of, as we practice forgiveness and we let go of condemnation, our mind goes through a series of awakenings. What would be some other names for it? Anyway, you become more and more initiations is another way. You're going to come into new vistas of realization, and the way to do it is this one by one. We relinquish the burdens of the mind. It is not time we need for this. It is but willingness. And what would seem to need 1,000 years can easily be done in just one instant by the grace of God. That's called a miracle. If it would have normally taken 1,000 years, but you can do it in one instant with the grace of God, you got a miracle. And miracles don't wait on time, do they? The dreary, hopeless thought that you can make attacks on others and escape yourself has nailed you to the cross. Perhaps it seemed to be salvation, yet it merely stood for the belief the fear of God is real. And what is that but hell? What could believe, or who could believe his Father is his deadly enemy, separate from him and waiting to destroy his life and blot him from the universe, without the fear of hell upon his heart? Such is the form of madness you believe if you accept the fearful thought you can attack another and be free yourself. That's a fearful thought, that you think you can attack another and be free yourself. Until this form is changed, there is no hope. Until you see that this, at least, must be entirely impossible, how could there be escape? The fear of God is real to anyone who thinks this thought is true, and he will not perceive its foolishness, nor even see that it is there, so that it would be possible to question it. And what is that idea that we're going to question? That you believe, such is the form of madness you believe, if you accept the fearful thought, you can attack another and be free yourself. I've said so many times, we're all in this together. We get to heaven 2 by 2 or more, but together. There's no one that we would condemn, because we've learned that condemnation on anyone is condemnation on ourselves. Such is the form of madness you believe, if you accept the fearful thought you can attack another and be free yourself. Until this form is changed, there is no hope. Until you see that this at least must be entirely impossible, how could there be escape? The fear of God is real to anyone who thinks this thought is true, and he will not perceive its foolishness, nor even see that it is there, so that it would be possible to question it. To question it at all, its form must first be changed, at least as much as will permit fear of retaliation to abate, and the responsibility return to some extent to you. From there you can at least consider if you want to go along this painful path. Until this shift has been accomplished, you cannot perceive that it is but your thoughts that bring you fear, and your deliverance depends on you. Our next step will be easy if you take this one today. And what is it can be but myself I crucify. Anytime you attack or criticize or condemn in your heart another person, you're doing that to yourself. So this whole idea, it can be but myself I crucify. Okay, our next step will be easy if you take this one today. From there we go ahead quite rapidly. For once you understand it is impossible that you be hurt except by your own thoughts. For once you understand it is impossible that you be hurt except by your own thoughts, the fear of God must disappear. You do not now believe that fear is caused without. And God, whom you had thought to banish, can be welcomed back within the holy mind. He never left. Salvation song can certainly be heard in the idea we practice for today. If it can but be you crucify, you did not hurt the world and need not fear its vengeance and pursuit. Nor need you hide in terror from the deadly fear of God projection hides behind. The thing you dread the most is your salvation. You are strong, and it is strength you want, and you are free and glad of freedom. You have sought to be both weak and bound because you feared your strength and freedom, yet salvation lies in them. There is an instant in which terror seems to grip your mind so wholly that escape appears quite hopeless. When you realize once and for all that it is you fear, the mind perceives itself as split, and this had been concealed while you believed attack could be directed outward and returned from outside to within. It seemed to be an enemy outside you had to fear, and thus a God outside yourself became your mortal enemy, the source of fear. Now, for an instant, is a murderer perceived within you, eager for your death, intent on plotting punishment for you until the time when it can kill at last. Yet in this instant is the time as well in which salvation comes, for fear of God has disappeared, and you can call on Him to save you from illusions in His love. calling him Father, and yourself his Son. Pray that the instant may be soon, today. Pray that the instant may be soon, today. That what? You can call on him, on God, to save you from illusions in his love. Call him Father, and yourself his Son. Pray that the instant may be soon, today. Step back from fear and make advance to love. There is no thought of God that does not go with you to help you reach that instant and to go beyond it quickly, surely, and forever. When the fear of God is gone, there are no obstacles that still remain between you and the holy peace of God. When the fear of God is gone, there is no obstacle that still remains between you and the holy peace of God. How kind and merciful is the idea we practice. Give it welcome, as you should, for it is your release. It is indeed but you your mind can try to crucify, yet your redemption too will come from you. It's just a choice away, isn't it? Our redemption, our freedom, our happiness. It is, and we're gonna make a lot of progress today if we really get this idea. It can be but myself I crucify. Next time you think about condemning somebody, remember you hold the sword over your own neck, and it'll either be averted or drop down on you based on whether you go through with your judgment or release it with forgiveness. Because whoever you condemn, you're really condemning yourself, because we're all in this together. Imagine, think of it that we're a body and each of us are cells in that body. But, you can't hurt one cell without hurting the whole body. Okay? Think of it that way maybe. All right, let's go take a look in our text reading for today. And we're ready for section, in chapter 22, Salvation and the Holy Relationship, section 5, the branching of the road. And while you're turning there, let me tell you about a celery called the tall Utah. And I'm reading to you out of the Seed Savers Exchange. The crisp, stringless 12-inch stalks of this celery variety impart a light, refreshing flavor to soups and stocks. The vigorous 24 to 30-inch plants have deep green leaves, light green stalks, and compact hearts. It's a biennial, 2-year plant, and it takes 100 days from plant to the time you can harvest it. And okay, that was from the Seed Savers Exchange. And I found this on Wikipedia as we're continuing more information about the Achillea millifolium, Yarrow. If you many of the Native American tribes used it as a tea, or they chew the leaf for toothaches, we know. But as making a tea, the Navajo used it for earaches. The Miwok used it for a cold remedy, and many American nations used it for cuts and abrasions, earaches, sore throats, and an eye wash. There you go, an eye wash. You probably want it fairly diluted if you put it in your eyes, just so that it doesn't burn them. I don't think it would hurt it, no matter how concentrated. Well, you might be able to overdo it. But anyway, you might try that. If you do it for an eye wash, you might try it, fairly dilute and build up to it. The Plains Indians used it to reduce pain and fever and to aid sleep. And like I said, I found all that on the Wikipedia. And there's references that you can look into that if you want to go to Wikipedia and look at it. Okay, the branching of the... Oh, and it also said in there that Yarrow stalks have been used for making pickup sticks. I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, the branching of the road. When you come to the place where the branch in the road is quite apparent, you cannot go ahead. You must go either way or the other. For now, if you go straight ahead the way you went before you reached the branch, you will go nowhere. The whole purpose of coming this far was to decide which branch you will take now. The way you came no longer matters. It can no longer serve. No one who reaches this far can make the wrong decision, but he can delay. And there is no part of the journey that seems more hopeless and futile than standing where the road branches and not deciding on which way to go. It is but the first few steps along the right way that seem hard, for you have chosen, although you still may think you can go back and make the other choice. Well, this is not so. A choice made with the power of heaven to uphold it cannot be. Let me read that again. A choice made with the power of heaven to uphold it cannot be undone. Your way is decided. There will be nothing you will not be told if you acknowledge this. And so you stand here in the holy place, before the veil of sin that hangs between you and the face of Christ. Let it be lifted. Raise it together, for it is but a veil that stands between you. Either alone will see it as a solid block, nor realize how thin the drapery that separates you now. Yet it is almost over in your awareness, and peace has reached you even here before the veil. Think what will happen after. The love of Christ will light your face and shine from them into a darkened world that needs the light. And from this holy place he will return with you, not leaving it nor you. You will become his messengers, returning him unto himself. Paragraph 41. Think of the loveliness that you will see who walk with him, and think how beautiful will each of you look to the other. How happy you will be together after such a long and lonely journey where you walked alone. The gates of heaven open now for you. Will you now open to the sorrowful? And none who looks upon the Christ in you but will rejoice. How beautiful the sight you saw beyond the veil, which you will bring to light the tired eyes of those as weary now as once you were. How thankful will they be to see you coming among them, offering Christ's forgiveness to dispel their faith in sin. Wow, we'll be a good example to our brothers and sisters, and it'll free them just to watch how we don't pay any mind to any sin, because we don't see it. We see their holiness, our oneness with them. That's what our lesson's about today. It can be but myself I crucify. It can be but myself I crucify. Could we put that in a positive light? It can be but myself I bless. You could think of it that way, the opposite. Every mistake you make, the other will gently have corrected for you. Every mistake you make, the other will gently have corrected for you. For in his sight, your loveliness is his salvation, which he would protect from harm. And each will be the other strong protector from everything that seems to rise between you. So shall you walk the world with me, whose message has not yet been given to everyone. For you are here to let it be received. God's offer still is open, yet it waits acceptance. From you who have accepted it, is it received. Into your joining hands is it safely given. For you who share it have become its willing guardians and protectors. 43. To all who share the love of God, the grace is given to be the givers of what they have received. And so they learn that it is theirs forever. All barriers disappear before their coming, as every obstacle was finally surmounted, which seemed to rise and block their way before. This veil you lift together opens the way to truth, to more than you. Those who would let illusions be lifted from their minds are this world's saviors. walking the world with their Redeemer and carrying his message of hope and freedom and release from suffering to everyone who needs a miracle to save him. The last paragraph, 44, how easy it is to offer this miracle to everyone. It's easy to offer miracles to people. Just see their innocence. It's what makes you, that's easy. Easier than seeing their condemnation or their to condemn them. No one who has received it for himself could find it difficult, for by receiving it, he learned it was not given him alone. Such is the function of a holy relationship, to receive together and give as you received. Standing before the veil, it still seems difficult, but hold out your joined hands and touch this heavy-seeming block, and you will learn how easily your fingers slip through its nothingness. It is no solid wall, and only an illusion stands between you and the holy self you share. So we want to see our holiness in our brothers and sisters. That's what our lesson's about today. See the innocence. And as you join your brother in that innocence, you realize that you slipped through your illusions thinking that you were separate. And you come to know yourself and God and your brother. All right, it can be but myself I crucify. It can be but myself I crucify. And let me just take a minute of silence, and we'll just listen to the birds. We're sitting underneath a white oak tree. It can be but myself I crucify. Be sure to hang out with that thought at least 5 minutes a couple times today, morning and evening, maybe longer if you can. Try for 15. And every hour, as the hour chimes, take a moment to see if you're at peace and tell yourself, it can be but myself I crucify. And check in, see if you've made some criticisms. How are you feeling? Gratitude for everybody? Remember yesterday's lesson? Love is the way I walk in gratitude. Well, be sure to do that. And then remember, really give yourself lots of motivation today. It can be but yourself you crucify. You don't want to crucify anyone, do you? You don't want to condemn anyone. See no one as guilty. See them as your brother that have made errors, but you and them are one in God. And that's how you reach God, is seeing that they are part of the body of Christ just like you are. So until tomorrow, and by the way, thank you so much for joining me. Until tomorrow, it can be but myself I crucify. It can be but myself I crucify.